Hola, buenos días, buenas tardes. No sé a qué hora lo van a sacar, pero hola a todos. Thank you for... I'm going to go in between English and Spanish because there's some questions in English and some questions in Spanish, so hopefully that won't be too confusing. I wanted to say a big thank you firstly to everyone at Festelón, everyone that has worked to make this project happen. Gracias a Maribí y a todos. Yeah, I've had some great questions. I've had to just choose a few because I think if I answered all of them, we'd be here for a long time. So yeah, just get straight into it. Okay, so why do you think it's important to bring Spanish theatre to English audiences? Yeah, so this is something that I spoke to Maribí about when we first met for coffee. And I'm really excited by the prospect of bringing sort of different theatrical cultures into the same place so that everyone can experience them. Watching theatre in Madrid, where I was born and where I'm from, was very different to watching theatre in London, obviously, and it's really nice to be able to cross those cultures and benefit from the similarities. I think people in theatre tend to hold different sort of theatrical cultures at a distance or on a pedestal. So for example, in this country they talk a lot about German theatre and how it's so experimental and avant-garde and we don't do it like German theatre, we should do it more like German theatre. And then when I was in Germany on a Shakespeare festival, it felt like they sort of revered like classical Shakespeare, British Shakespeare theatre. And I just think it'd be really, yeah, I just think everyone would benefit more from those things mixing rather than holding the things on a pedestal or further away. And also in England and in London specifically, there's a huge Spanish-speaking community, Latin American community, and just general Spanish-speaking population. So I think it's really important that those people can benefit also from culture if English isn't their first language and they feel like they connect more with Spanish material, Spanish-speaking material. So yeah, that was a bit of a ramble. Okay, the next one. What's your favourite play you've performed in and why is it your favourite? How long have you got? No, I have been really lucky and I've sort of had a great experience on each production that I've done for very different reasons. But just to pick out a few, I was really lucky in the first few years of my career to be cast in productions with really close friends. So my first job ever was a new play called Epic Love and Pop Songs, which was a two-hander which I was in with my best friend, coincidentally. We both got cast in the same thing together. And we went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and that was great. And then after that, I was in a production of Telo with another of my best friends, Abraham Papula, and I think that is up there with one of my special sort of experiences of theatre, because I was really stimulated creatively and politically. So all of the politics of that play I really care about, and we all seem to care about, and it felt like we were doing quite a radical, taking material which everyone knows, Othello, Shakespeare, and coming at it from quite a modern, radical perspective without sort of having to change anything, which for me I just found really, like I say, stimulating. And then more recently I was in I'm just talking about all of them. More recently I was in a production called The Almighty Sometimes at the Royal Exchange Theatre in Manchester. And I think that is one that I've sort of held, one experience that I'll always look back to, that I had an amazing time. Again, for the same reasons, like artistically fulfilled. I felt it was a four-hander with three other incredible actors in this beautiful theatre in Manchester, the Royal Exchange. And just the way that the play was written, it was such a beautifully written play, and we all really cared about it, we all really wanted to make it brilliant, and yeah, it really stretched me as an actor in the best possible way. So I was obsessed with that short run that we did. It was like 2 weeks, but I sort of eat, sleep, breathed the character all the time, so that was really fun, and a brilliant team to work with. So yeah, those are 3 of many. ¿Cuáles son para ti las diferencias entre actuar en inglés y actuar en español? Pues la verdad que no he tenido mucha oportunidad de actuar en español. No me ha salido algún papel en español aún. I did, however, when I was at drama school, we were trained in London, and we had a project in the voice curriculum where we had to perform a political speech from history that had happened before, and I chose to do the No Pasarán speech, the Dolores Ibarrurri, the Spanish Republican, the woman who fought for the Spanish Republic. Obviously everyone knows who she is on here. And I did half of it in Spanish and half of it in English. And that was quite interesting to see how my voice changed and how I sort of like physically changed when I was speaking in Spanish. Obviously the 2 are very culturally different, and I think also with the material, political material, I really connected with like the Spanish history and politics of it. So yeah, I don't know what the differences are, other than I guess I just have a different energy in Spanish. But like I say, I haven't really had much opportunity to explore that yet, so hopefully I will do. I have recently been translating a sonnet, Shakespeare sonnet, into Spanish, and I've really enjoyed that. Trying to find poetic translations of really confusing Shakespeare metaphors into Spanish, and then because I've chosen those metaphors myself, or because I identify with the words a bit more, I'm closer to it. I think the way that the words sit in my mouth is a bit different, and I really enjoy that. I think that's about it. Hopefully that will change soon, because I'd love to act in Spanish, actually. La siguiente, ¿qué valoras más de un personaje para elegir interpretarlo? Well, first and foremost is the politics of it. I find that I'm really conscious as a young female actress that a lot of the parts that are around are, especially sort of classical parts, which is why I think I tend to lean more towards new writing, are that they tend to be underwritten if they're written by men of a certain time. So I've had a couple of experiences where I've auditioned for parts where, yeah, they're just really underwritten and sort of sexist, and it's really tricky, and it's always something that I find I'm really conscious of, because I think you have to, as an actor, you have to really believe in the writer's intentions, and as soon as you put yourself away from that is when you get a really tricky conflict, because it's your job as an actor to sort of like fulfill the writer's intentions. But if you as an individual don't necessarily align with that, I think that can be really difficult, and I've struggled with that in the past. So yeah, that's it really, sort of the politics of it. A good, strong, independent, feminist thinking, forward-thinking, progressive character, or at least well-rounded, complicated, intelligent, all those things that sometimes are sort of few and far between when you think about the old canon of parts specifically for young women, that tend to be the sort of ingenue, underwritten, stupid, those things. So yeah, I think that's about it. What character would you like to perform that you haven't experienced as of yet? So a great question. So as I was saying, that I sort of tend to lean more towards new writing at the moment because of those things, because I like material that's driven politically, and so I tend to enjoy more portraying new writing than classical. However, recently I've been itching to get into the mindset of people that have existed in history, that I huge role models that I have. I'd love to portray someone that that is really important, that I think these stories are told, like old socialist women that have been sort of forgotten in various political struggles. I'm reading at the moment, I'm sort of getting obsessed with the Spanish Civil War and the dictatorship that followed and stuff, and I'm reading about a English communist woman called Nan Green, who went to assist in the Spanish Civil War for the Republic, and she's just had the most she was just the most incredible human being, and I'm reading her memoirs at the moment, and there's all these other brilliant historical huge trailblazing women who did so much who no one knows about. Like there's a suffragette, working class suffragette called Annie Kenny, who is from the town that I grew up in Oldham in Manchester, and I'd love to have a crack at portraying Annie Kenny and people like that, I think. Yeah, I've been thinking about that quite a lot, and I'd really love to delve into that. What English festivals would you recommend to attend to anyone that enjoys the art of drama? A great question. Obviously really hard to answer right now because as far as I'm aware, most if not all of them have been cancelled because of coronavirus. But yeah, I mean the Fringe, like I mentioned earlier, where I did my first job, is the sort of one that I think is the most talked about. It's really expensive, that's the only thing. I think you go up there, and we all have a joke between my friends that it sort of like ekes money out of you when you're there for like 2 weeks. But the most incredible theatre you can see from all over the country and all over the world. There's an international festival, so that's in August, and there's just so much going on. Every possible type of theatre you can imagine. Sometimes can feel a bit sort of overwhelming, but yeah, you're sure to see some really amazing, creative, innovative stuff. And the other one that I'd mention is the Volks Festival in London, which actually just tragically had to sort of stop halfway through because of COVID-19, which is in Southwark, just behind Waterloo, and it's around March, and that's all new writing, and it's really great to see. It doesn't go through a sort of huge producers or whatever. It's people creating their own work and being able to like show it. And a lot of friends that I've had, I've seen their stuff that they've been developing at the Volks, and then usually it tends to like have another life. So the Volks is like a chance to showcase it for the first time. So it's really cool, the Volks Festival in Southwark. Would you like to perform in Spanish, or have you interpreted any character in Spanish? If not, what would you like to do and why? Yeah, I sort of answered that one before, that I haven't had much opportunity, but I would love to. And yeah, like I was saying, I'm sort of taking this time in lockdown to delve into the Spanish Civil War and the Republic, the Spanish Republic, and the experience of Republican fighters and Republican soldiers during the dictatorship afterwards. And I am just obsessed with that and feel really close to it, culturally close. And yeah, I'd love to do something like that. I recently watched the Ken Loach film again, Land and Freedom, that's about, that's the George Orwell book, sort of in film, Homage to Catalunya. And it is brilliant, and I'd love to work on a project that looked into that part of history and the effects that it's having on the political situation in Spain at the moment, which I think are huge. The next one, ¿te gustaría trabajar a nivel teatral en diferentes países? ¿Por qué país empezarías? Yes, sí, me encantaría. Me gustaría trabajar en países que valoran el teatro más. Quiero decir, where they put more funds into the arts, where the arts is recognised as more important to everyone, not just people who can afford to go to the theatre, or not just people who can afford to train, in drama school. There's countries in South America like Cuba and Venezuela and Chile, which I feel have a culturally quite and politically radical. So I think the material that comes out of those countries and the arts and the way that they look at the arts is very different to sort of European theatre. And I'm really passionate about doing theatre in those South American countries, because I feel like they have a different relationship to arts, and it's a much more in line with protest and social change, which I think in this country particularly used to be for a long time, with like Joan Littlewood and, you know, the sort of radical travelling theatre companies, but it's really hard to do that now because I think a lot of the theatre now is in England or in London, specifically in the West End, about profit and about making money. And the thing that excites me is when theatre's used for more important reasons, for protest and for radicalising people. And for that reason as well, I think Germany has a really interesting history with theatre, like the impact that Brechtian theatre had in Germany, and the way that they regard theatre is sort of seems to be a lot different than in this country. So I'd love to work in Germany as well. A great question. ¿Qué ventajas y desventajas crees que tendrá la manera de hacer teatro después del COVID-19? Well, this is something that I feel like I'm having a lot of conversations about at the moment with with various different groups. I think I'm going to concentrate on the positives because I'm inclined to be sort of more utopian about how I want us as an industry to come out of this crisis. It's very difficult because it's completely stopped. And the sort of thing that we keep saying, that we keep hearing, is that you can't do takeaway theatre. Like in the hospitality industries are opening up, and it's impossible to sort of imagine what it looks like in safe conditions at the moment until the situation it comes into a clearer focus as to what's the right thing to do and the safe thing to do. However, I think some of the advantages that we've seen in this time, even though it's been tricky for financial reasons for everyone that I've known has sort of lost jobs or everything's been postponed. The good things that are coming out of it, I think, are that everyone's making theatre. So people are really taking it upon themselves to write that have never written before, and not waiting for something to happen or not waiting for someone to cast them in something, and just taking charge and taking power to create their own work and networking and trying to find innovative ways of sharing that material, so on Zoom calls or recording it and sending it out. So I think creatively people are really thriving at the moment, and I really hope that we take that back out when we are allowed and when it's safe to do so, to be back in theatres again, which is a really good thing. I spoke to a friend of mine who's a director recently, and he said that he's really enjoying having space and time to work on projects properly now, or develop writing. And I think that's something that I really hope we hold on to in the theatre world, of giving more breathing space to different projects rather than like trying to rush to get everything sorted in 4 weeks and have this amazing show to come out after 4 weeks, because you end up rushing a process that, if you take time and care with it, can come out much more nuanced and less effect on everyone's mental health to do so. Also I think something that I'm really excited by at the moment is how different people are considering who is most affected in this time, and a lot of workers in the theatre industry get disregarded because what we do is so precarious and everyone's self-employed and it's very short contracts that don't have a lot of stability. So I think broadening that horizon to sort of these big institutions and the people that hold the sort of privileges and money and stability, to really recognise that a lot of self-employed people are in a really difficult situation right now, and hopefully I'd like to think that would change, or there'd be more empathy or sympathies with that when we got back into being able to work again. And finally, looking at theatres as radical and much more connected with the communities in which they're in. So for example, there's a couple of theatres like Slung Low in Leeds, which have turned their company into a mutual aid group at the moment, which is helping the community that it's in, which I just think is just such an important thing, that we in the theatre industry, look outwards to reach different people, whereas I feel like sometimes it can be a little bit what we call an echo chamber, of sort of serving the same people that can afford to come and watch the plays all the time. I think we have a real opportunity with the, in the theatre networks to help people who need to be helped at the moment, and hopefully that will carry on into afterwards. I think that's sort of all we've got time for. There was loads of other brilliant questions. But I didn't want to sort of I feel like I've talked enough. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to message me on social media and I will get back to you. In the meantime, everyone stay safe. I hope this isn't too stressful or traumatic a time for anyone, and that people are finding ways to thrive creatively, and and please stay safe, everyone. Thank you, Mariby, and everyone. Muchas gracias. Adiós.